Welcome to Development Book Club. Today we continue with Lovingkindness, and we will focus today on, we've been speaking about these four Brahmaviharas. Lovingkindness is one of them. We'll be speaking about how it sort of relates to the other, mostly the last two. We already spoke about compassion a little bit, so specifically today, sympathetic joy and equanimity. Let's hop in. Chapter 8 is the Liberating the Mind through Sympathetic Joy. Mudita, M-U-D-I-T-A, is the word in Pali that's translated as sympathetic joy, meaning to be pleased, to have a sense of gladness. A couple things about what it's not. It's sort of enemies is the term they use, and then also it's allies. So Mudita is not judgmental. So we ask this question, really interesting. Can we allow the lives of others to be different from our own and feel happy for those people? Can we rejoice for them as their happiness grows in whatever way that is happening? If people are genuinely happy and they are not harming themselves or others, can we be generous enough, we'll return to that later, to feel joy for them? In practicing Mudita, rather than looking at other people, so comparing, right, in order to define ourselves, we begin by recognizing that we do indeed deserve to be happy. And out of that confidence, we are able to delight in the happiness of other people as well, instead of feeling threatened by it, which is ultimately unproductive, right? With respect to prejudice towards other people, especially people that we don't like. A great quote from Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, if that name sounds familiar. He's the American poet from the 19th century who wrote Paul Revere's Ride, and he said, "If we could just read the secret history of our enemies, we should find in each man's life sorrow and suffering enough to disarm all of our hostility." Really cool. A few other distractions from Mudita, sympathetic joy. Demeaning others, or even ourselves. The attitude of diminishing the happiness of other people is based on considering happiness as a limited, or we could say scarce, resource. Wishing to diminish the happiness of others only actually diminishes our own. Doesn't actually bring us, it's not like a seesaw. It's more of a tide. Likewise, augmenting the happiness of others, even those we don't like, augments your own or increases your own. And we see this in the METTA meditations as well, right? Envy is the inability to endure the success, prosperity, or happiness of others. Avarice is a quality whereby one seeks to hold on to and conceal what one has in order to avoid sharing it with others. Again, this goes back to the very beginning of the book. We're talking about contraction in the mind. It does not want to have others hear or know about something that is bringing us happiness, lest we have to share it with anyone else. Boredom in that Mudita gives us many reasons to be happy and connected. A couple of quick things on the allies of Mudita, and then we move on to equanimity, my favorite. Perhaps the best paragraph in the whole book talks about sympathetic joy, saying that it depends on what they call rapture, our capacity to take active delight in things. And this depends on our ability to actually ourselves feel joy. We have to let go of feeling guilt about our own happiness or feeling threatened that it will be taken from us. It's like this scarcity or something again. When we hoard our pleasure or happiness, we feel disdainful of other people and their suffering. At times, we may feel disdainful for even ourselves and our own suffering as well. But it is essential that we take delight in our own happiness as a perfect expression of our basic motivation to be free. Awesome paragraph. And notes on really quickly, compassion is an ally of Mudita, sympathetic joy. Compassion balances it, and it keeps it from degenerating into just being sentimentality or ignorant optimism. Mudita keeps compassion from degenerating into brooding over the enormous breadth, depth, and duration of suffering that we experience in the world, or that it is in the world. It gives solace to the compassionate heart so that we do not feel flooded or overwhelmed by the pain. Sympathetic joy. Now we switch to the fourth Brahmavihara, which is equanimity. And this is a chapter that has many lovely images and metaphors and stories, and I really recommend reading it in Pali. So the word here for we translate as equanimity is upekkha, meaning balance. And it is to arrest the mind before it falls into extremes. This is a radiant, calm mind that allows us to be present fully with the different changing experiences that constitute our world and our lives, our realities. Additionally, upekkha is referred to as the culmination. Equanimity is referred to as the culmination of the Brahmaviharas. The Buddha, for example, once said that pleasure and pain, gain and loss, praise and blame, fame and disrepute constantly arise and pass away, beyond our control. And equanimity, upekkha, is fundamentally an acknowledgement of this constant rising and passing away. And with this, the Buddha noted that there are 6 ways in which we experience the world, right? So seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and then he combines the mind via thinking, emotions, and seeing mental images. And there are feeling tones to these ways of experience, right? So there's pleasure, pain, and neutrality. Our tendency is to careen back and forth between elation on one side and despair on the other. And this is like a violent movement for and against what our experience is, depending on how we interpret it, right? There's also denial as well. The Buddha taught that we can feel pleasure fully, yet without craving or clinging to it. We can also feel pain fully without condemning or hating it. And this is a tough one, because we're so conditioned to painkillers and to aversion to pain and discomfort. So anyway, so that we can be fully present with both sides of those, so that they're not just, with neutral events. So they're not just fill-in times until something more exciting comes along. There's an awesome Chinese poem in here about equanimity, 4 lines. I'll read it to you now. 10,000 flowers in the spring, the moon in autumn, a cool breeze in summer, snow in the winter. If your mind is not clouded by unnecessary things, this is the best season of your life. I really like that poem. Equanimity is the culmination of the Brahmaviharas, because the end of it, or culmination, we'll stick with that word, because in others, we may wish to them, we've done this, right? May you be happy, may you be free from suffering, may your joy never cease. And however, the point here is, like what the Buddha said earlier, we may wish for these things, but the results mostly are beyond our control. And this is reflected in the equanimity meditation. All beings are the owners of their karma. Their happiness and unhappiness depend on their actions, not on my wishes for them. Likewise, we may plant an apple seed and then beg, weep, protest because we want to harvest mangoes. But no amount of wishing or anguish will help us get what we want if we want mangoes from an apple seed. If we want mangoes, the only way to get mangoes is to plant a mango seed or to buy them from the store. This is a bit about how loving kindness fits into the larger spectrum of the other Brahmaviharas. We will continue next time with the gift of generosity, and that will probably be our last video on this book. It's been great. Thank you for watching.